Well, crypto isn't fringe anymore. It's a high-stakes market on your phone. People buy Bitcoin as investments, trade on stocks like apps, and stash coins in wallets they barely understand. That cocktail of hype, volatility, and complexity draws scammers and regulators. Of course, here in Canada, most crypto sold to the public looks like an investment, so securities laws apply. Well, joining me now to talk about this issue is Mark Wong, Director of Capital Markets Regulations with the BC Securities Commission, and Doug Muir, Director of Enforcement with the BC Securities Commission. Mark and Doug, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I know what crypto is, and I think a lot of our audience does, but just for the sake of clarity, Mark, why don't we start with you first of all? What exactly is cryptocurrency, and how does it differ from, let's say, traditional money or securities?
Yeah. So even the phrase cryptocurrency has implications there that it's like money, but they almost are shortened it. People sometimes just call it crypto assets. But at the end of the day, it's just really computer code. It's a digital representation, and in most situations, it's a digital representation of transactions. And I think the biggest sort of groundbreaking development of crypto was what we call the blockchain and a distributed ledger technology. And what that means in sort of more layman's terms is the blockchain was a chain of a bunch of pieces of data which represented transactions. So that is the block. Distributed ledger technology was, if you think about a ledger in the traditional sense, way back when, pieces of paper, a bank may write down transactions of your bank. Remember when we all used to go and give the book and get it back and the little printouts of the transactions? Well, what happened with distributed ledger technology is computers from around the world would each play a role in verifying and representing transactions, hence the word distributed. And that was sort of the groundbreaking piece of blockchain in particular, which is the crypto asset that most people are familiar with.
Given crypto's volatility, is it fair to call it an investment, or is it closer to gambling?
Well, that's the $1,000,000 question. And I think, to use the phrase, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and depending on your perspective. I mean, the biggest issue with cryptocurrency, crypto assets, is volatility. So it can go from a significant amount to nothing in a heartbeat, and it can go from nothing to a very large amount in a heartbeat. For example, Bitcoin's trading about $150,000 Canadian today.
Yeah.
So, you really have to be mindful of is, if you're thinking about it from an investment perspective, are you able to take on that risk? Are you able to lose everything you're investing? And are you able to go to bed at night understanding that your investment, in quotation marks, can be changing in value so significantly?
Doug, let me go to you. How much of BCSC's enforcement work now involves crypto or blockchain-related activity?
It's a fair amount. So there's a bunch of different ways in which crypto is in part of the enforcement world. So, for example, a crypto asset trading platform, we've done a couple of prosecutions with respect to those. One of them called EasyBTC, which was found just they'd committed fraud, and our panel had, sanctioned them about $18 million for their misconduct. We have another hearing coming up in March, again, for a crypto asset trading platform where they allege they've done misconduct. Those are just allegations at that point. But another way that, crypto is a big part of the enforcement world is it's a thing that gets sold, in the sense that it's the sizzle that people are selling. Mark had talked about how these things can really rocket the prices, and I think that really attracts people. So we're finding that the scammers are using that. They may not have anything legitimate behind it, but people are thinking and talking about crypto, and so they get enticed into it because it's a big deal. And it's the flashy thing that these scammers are pushing.
How much power does the BCSC actually have when a crypto platform operates overseas but targets BC investors?
Those are real challenges. Yeah, and you've hit one of the big problems we're facing, that a lot of the players behind these scams are overseas, and they often, of course, layer themselves quite deeply, so you don't know who they are. And so one of the approaches we've been taking is focusing less on investigation and prosecution, sort of the traditional methods, and more on things like disruption and education. Now, things are different, of course, if the crypto asset trading platform here is here in British Columbia or in Canada. And, Mark can speak to that. There are some of those in Canada that are registered, but that's a different context. But definitely when it's overseas, it's a challenge for everyone.
Let me go to you, Mark, here. When crypto companies claim they're decentralized, from a regulatory standpoint, who's accountable when something goes wrong?
Who's accountable when something goes wrong? Well, let me, I'll talk about it in the context that we approach it, because we only have certain jurisdiction over securities or derivatives. And when somebody is engaged in selling a cryptocurrency or a crypto asset, that's when we come to the table. So we manage and regulate the distribution channels. So that's how we come to the table. And if that entity who's involved in advising you or selling you the crypto currency does not adhere to our regulations, then we hold them accountable. So that's the traditional way that that our jurisdiction, that we're at the table.
We are speaking to Mark Wong and Doug Muir, both of them with the BC Securities Commission. We're talking about crypto, and I know you hear a lot of that in the news. It certainly isn't fringe anymore. When the President of the United States has crypto, and his family seems to have crypto, and many other people talk crypto. But it's very complex and very volatile, of course, and you do have to keep an eye on it. Mark, now, we've talked about the volatility of crypto. We've talked about the fact that it's decentralized. But there are crypto companies in this country and this province that do operate and are registered and have to deal with the BC Securities Commission, right?
Absolutely, yeah. There's about 20 registered crypto asset trading platforms across the country. And there are other ways to buy crypto. So you can walk up to one of those crypto ATMs that you see around at coffee shops and other locations.
I think there's one just a couple blocks away.
Yeah, they pop up in the strangest of locations. But those are not regulated by us. But most of the businesses that sell crypto assets are required to be registered with us. And there's a whole slew of obligations that we impose on them, how they have to deal with money, how they have to hold crypto assets. We do an evaluation of the individuals involved in the company to make sure they don't have criminal records, etc. So if you are thinking about making a crypto asset purchase, it really is in your best interest to do a little bit of due diligence and ensure that the entity that you're dealing with is registered in British Columbia.
Doug, I'm just curious, because of technology today, everything is so fast moving, and I use Donald Trump as one example, and all of a sudden one day there's a crypto with Donald Trump and sons and everything else, and I mean it is so fast moving. How does a traditional agency like the BC Securities Commission, it could be a national agency, how do you stay up with something like that? Because, we set up these agencies from a different era. I'm not saying you're slow, but I'm just saying the change is so fast with technology today. How do you stay up with that?
So it's one thing that we do is we're in regular communication with partners across Canada and British Columbia and around the world as well, attending conferences, doing some of our own research, and, just collaborating, working with people to understand it. So we know what's going on, regular communication, either a daily basis or at least, like I say, regular conferences and attendances and things like that. We've got staff that get trained up in these areas. Fortunately, there's some staff that are quite keen, for example, crypto asset tracing. And there's lots of tools and more tools that are becoming developed that we can use to help in our enforcement efforts. But it is a challenge. I mean, as typical in enforcement in any area, the bad guy can always be one step ahead of you.
Yeah.
So it is a real challenge for us to keep up. But we do have a lot, and we have a lot of knowledge and gaining more and more experience across Canada and in the BC Securities Commission ourselves.
Mark, I'm just curious. I remember watching or listening to a documentary many years ago in regards to crypto, and in this case, folks were ripped off. And the person running it was out of Asia, but a lot of poor folks were ripped off, and they're mostly investors from Africa. In regards to the average investor, I'm very curious. I mean, I view myself as pretty tech savvy, but I won't touch crypto. I won't go near it. Is the average investor sophisticated and they're open to that volatility, or is it folks that have just know a little bit about it, have heard about it, have heard a lot of folks making money off of it, and they go into it perhaps not very knowledgeable of the intricacies of crypto?
There's a wide range of people buy crypto, but I really would say there are a number of people who purchase crypto assets who don't understand how it works, who really don't understand what they're investing in, and may not even understand the volatility side of things. But sometimes, the old FOMO, the fear of missing out. You hear the stories about people who became millionaires, billionaires overnight. You hear the stories about how people were able to change their lifestyle because of how much they made, and that drives some of the decisions as opposed to looking at the fundamentals. I mean, I'll tell you a bit of a story that just really sort of demonstrates the volatility. And I know this is over a significant period of time, but the first crypto asset transaction, there were 10,000 Bitcoin that were used to purchase 2 pizzas. If that individual had held on to that 10,000 Bitcoin, that would now be worth $1 billion.
Wow, that's an expensive couple of pizzas.
Yes.
Wow.
And now I don't want to put that story forward to say you can make $1 billion because that's highly unlikely, but it really just demonstrates the crazy volatility. And again, a number of crypto assets have literally gone to zero. Like, people don't talk about all of the situations where they lost vast amounts of money, but that's the challenge, right? They see some of those success stories and it drives them to invest with really understanding what they're doing.
Yeah. My final question to you, we've got about a minute left, Doug. Does crypto have a sustainable place in Canada's financial system, or is it future mostly about regulation and risk control in your mind?
I think that's one I would defer to Mark on. He's probably more in tune with that.
Yeah, no, actually, it's a great question because, look, there are different types of crypto assets. And there are some use cases that really, I think, do have value. Like, I don't know if you've heard about stable coins.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot of conversation about stable coins, which is, the name is a bit of a misnomer, but the challenge of volatility was an issue that they tried to solve with stable coins. So there's actually, for example, a 1-to-1 backing with some stable coins that trade as if they were US dollars. Okay. And so, if you think about why Bitcoin was invented, was an attempt to sort of circumvent intermediaries and get around some of the costs. There may actually be some use cases that have some real value to the financial system, but there are a lot of risks and a lot of challenges, and we're in the midst of ironing all that out.
Yeah, it's early days, I think, in the grand scheme of things when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto and everything else. That's for sure. Mark Wong, Doug Muir, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.